¿Qué pasa, YouTube? 6 Foot Hacks here. Have for you guys today round 2 of the playoffs of the CCL D League. Of course, if you guys do enjoy the video, make sure to hammer that like button down below and let me know what you thought of the CCL D League so far this season. If you have not seen any of the battles, I do have them in a playlist, which a link to that is down in the description, as well as my Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram. Well, I think Instagram, I don't know, my Discord as well, so check all that stuff out. But anyways, I haven't uploaded CCL D League in about 2 weeks because I didn't do my week 13 match because me and my opponent just didn't do it. I had stuff going on, she had stuff going on, so we couldn't get around to doing it. Then, because I finished #1 in my division, I got a bye in the first round of playoffs, so this is a second round of playoffs, and I'm playing my boy Sork, aka Shut Up Sork, aka coach of the Shut Up Sorks. Now, we've faced Sork twice before and I beat him both times pretty confidently, honestly. Like, I was never really worried. So going into this match, I was honestly not worried either, because if you really look at the matchup, I honestly have a really good matchup. Like, I don't think there's any combination of 6 mons that he can really bring that would honestly discourage me, especially if he doesn't prepare for what you see in front of you, which is Double Dance Reuniclus, which has won me both games that we previously have played. Now, the downside to that is that I'm bringing, well, I'll show you guys what I'm bringing, but I'm bringing the same team as I brought in our second match. Just some stuff has been changed around. A Reuniclus is absolutely the same, has just 4 speed EVs on the off chance that he does bring Toxapex, just so I can maybe outspeed it if he's not running any speed. Next off, we have good old AV Tangrowth, which is just absolutely amazing in this match, and I'm running enough speed to outspeed non-speed EV'd Alola Marowak, which Alola Marowak is actually kind of annoying. We do have a Greninja and a Hydreigon, but honestly, it hits really hard. So I definitely have to watch out for that if he does want to bring it. He brought a game 2, so I'm not going to be surprised if he brings it again. Just a standard set, honestly. HP Fire, 3-hit KOs. Ferrothorn knockoff is just really good to get rid of items, to get off damage on Marowak and Latios. Earthquake is only for Heatran. Even if he burns me, I just need to chip down Heatran. And then Giga Drain is just there for stab and a bit of extra recovery. Like I said, speed is to outspeed Marowak, which he shouldn't be running any speed, I think. I'm pretty sure he's not going to be running any speed. I don't know why he would be running speed. Just max attack, max HP, honestly, is more than good enough. But yeah, this still lets me switch into Choice Specs Dracos from Latios, although he brought Dragon Dance Latios game 3, so I don't know. I'm honestly not concerned about Latios if he does want to bring it. Next off, we have Hydreigon, which honestly, man, I have been so let down by Hydreigon this whole like CCL D League, man. Everybody keeps telling me Hydreigon's amazing. Hydreigon's such a good Pokemon in draft format. I'm just kind of like, it's not. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying that at all. It's just, I don't really like it. It's just, it really has not come into many games. And yeah, luckily in this matchup, Sork doesn't really have a good Dark Resist. I guess he does have Gramble, but I can just Fire Blast him, and then there's a possibility I'm going to bring Flash Cannon anyways. He brought Gramble game 1, but not game 2. So if he brings it again, I'm not going to be surprised, but honestly, it doesn't really do anything this matchup. So I'm not concerned about it at all. But Modest Hydreigon just destroys his team. He has no switch-ins to this. This is also my main switch-in to Marowak because we chew any hit that he wants to go for. I could run Timon max speed, but I really do not expect him to run Jolly Landorus just because it doesn't have a good matchup. Like, he should definitely want to run Adamant just for the extra power because he still outspeeds everything that he needs to, I think. So I don't expect him to bring Jolly Landorus. And we have enough speed to outspeed Adamant max speed Landorus, which is really good because then we can Dark Pulse him, maybe go for the Substitute or Roost, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, there's no reason for me to bring Dragon coverage. Fire Blast straight Oko's Ferrothorn, which is really good too. And then Dark Pulse just does a number to his team. Hydreigon would have really loved to have spikes in this match, but I just could not fit Scolipede or Greninja on the team. Just a little spoiler there. Next off, we have Melcher the Mamoswine, which this literally just destroys Sork. Like, holy crap, look at his team and look at my Mamoswine. Everything dies, which is awesome. So there's no reason for me to not bring Mamoswine. This time though, unlike the first 2 games, I learned from game number 2. For some reason, Sork likes to run timid max speed Heatran, which really pisses me off because then I have to run Jolly Mamoswine, which I don't like to run Jolly Mamoswine. I like to run Adamant for the extra power, but I'm forced to run Jolly because I don't want to run into the scenario that I ran into in game 2 where it was Heatran against Mamoswine and his Heatran outsped my Mamoswine because he was timid and I was Adamant. So yeah, if that comes to happen again, then I can outspeed him, OHKO him with Earthquake, or I think Superpower can OHKO him if he's got Shucka Berry, or if he has Air Balloon. And Stealth Rocks, of course, are just the most important move in the game. Don't ever question why I have Stealth Rocks. I will always have Stealth Rocks. I don't think I said that right, but I will always have Stealth Rocks. Ice Shard, honestly, I don't even need Icicle Crash or Icicle Spear because I don't outspeed anything that I can really hit with. I guess Celebi, but Celebi has a really bad matchup this game unless he brings like Perish Song for my Reuniclus, which I guess he could bring, but I can maybe play around that. Actually, no, that would be really, really annoying now that I think about it. I don't know. He could bring that. You never know. Next off, we have Snorlax, aka Munchies. Unfortunately, didn't get to use this set in game number 2. Game number 1, I brought sub 3 attack Speedy Snorlax to sub in front of Gastrodon. This time though, I am running Sub Curse Facade. Also, shout out to my boy Harris is awesome for helping me build this week's squad. And the cool thing about Snorlax is that it sets up in front of Ferrothorn. It sets up in front of Celebi potentially, in front of Heatran even, Toxapex, potentially Marowak, even Granbull if I can curse before he does too much damage to me and he doesn't have Toxic. Because then from there, behind a substitute, Snorlax can just curse until his substitutes can't be broken by physical hits, and then I can just Earthquake and then Facade. Facade is also really good if he has T-Spikes or if he decides to Lava Plume and he burns me on a potential switch-in. This is going to be doing so much damage, especially if he does have T-Spikes, which, I mean, he could bring Toxapex, but if you really look at it, Toxapex has an absolutely bad matchup. Then again, in our first 2 games, I haven't brought Scolipede, so he could bring T-Spikes. You never know. But I really don't expect it because we have Mamoswine and we have Jolteon. And speaking of Jolteon, that is going to be our last team member. Now, in our second and our first matchup, I brought a modest, more offensive variant of Jolteon. And after game 2, I learned that Sork really loves Wakamberry. So there's really no reason for me to run a lot of power with Jolteon if I can just have it be a little bit more bulky, still outspeed everything I needed to outspeed while still being able to check Toxapex, check Manaphy, check Thundurus, non-Scarf Landorus, even be able to kind of check Heatran depending on how low of HP it is at, and be able to kind of check Celebi or force it around, maybe thinking that we'll have Signal Beam. But yeah, that's kind of the idea of Jolteon. That's why I have leftovers as opposed to Expert Belt or Magnet or Specs or something like that. Just because I don't want to lock myself into an electric move with him having Marowak. I don't really need the extra power from Shadow Ball so long as I can get up Stealth Rocks. And Jolteon is still able to comfortably switch into defensive Manaphy, which I'm pretty sure is what he's brought both games. Even if he's offensive, I should still be able to switch into it accordingly and not really have to worry about it. But yeah, guys, that is the squad. This is more or less what I'm expecting him to bring. Actually, no. These 6 Mons are what he brought our second game. See, that's another thing about this matchup. That's why I feel like our matchup is so good, is that I can't really think of any 6 Mons that he could potentially bring that can deal with these 6 Mons that I have right here. If you get what I'm trying to say, that's how good of a matchup I feel like we have going into this game because of our first 2 games. The only downside to that is that he could expect me to bring the same stuff again, so I have to watch out for that. But more or less, I really feel like we have a way better matchup than he does. So yeah, guys, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the battle. Alright, guys, so I really wished that I had recorded this live, but I may or may have not been sober during this battle, so I decided not to do it live, just so I could focus during the match. And it turned out to be a really good battle. Like, I don't think a post-com of this battle does it justice, just because of how good it was. And definitely check out my boy Sork after this battle. Like, I really felt this was a good game. Now, like I said during the team building process, if you did not see that, then I advise you to watch it because it's informative, I feel like. And you'll get more of an understanding why I brought the same 6 mons that I brought game 2. So there's really no combination of 6 that he could have brought that I was honestly worried about. I felt like these 6 mons definitely covered everything that Sork wanted to potentially bring. The only weird things that could catch me off guard is if he runs some odd sets that I'm not expecting, but I mean, obviously I'm not expecting him to have any of those, but that's the only real thing that could kind of mess me up, I think. More or less, I feel like we definitely had a way better matchup in this match than Sork had. So as you can see from his team, Druddigons literally just destroys him. The only problem with that is that he can very well have Scarf Landorus. Celebi could even be Scarf because Scarf Celebi actually looks really annoying to my team. Potentially Scarf Trick, Scarf Perish Song even, Scarf Heal Belt, not Heal Belt, Healing Wish potentially could be a thing as well. Heatran, definitely expecting that to be his rocker. I'm expecting Marowak to be offensive, not SD, but definitely like 4 attacks. Maybe Substitute. Substitute could actually be a little bit scary if he gets it in against my Reuniclus. Landorus, because he's brought Scarf Landorus before, and I forget, I think he brought Setup Landorus game 1. I'm expecting this Landorus to either be Scarfed or be set up, and he can't have Z moves, so he can't have like Flynium Z with Fly, so I'm not worried about that. So I'm thinking it's either going to be Double Dance or it's just going to be defensive, maybe with Rocks, and Heatran could be like Taunt or something, sub maybe, I don't know. But Heatran could also just be purely defensive with Roar and Taunt for my Double Dance Reuniclus, so I definitely have to watch out for that. Manaphy, I'm expecting it to be defensive, maybe Scarf, like that would be a little bit weird, but I guess he could bring that. More or less defensive is what I'm expecting. And then Toxapex, it's a fucking Toxapex. I have Mamoswine, I have Reuniclus, I have Hydreigon, I have Jolteon for it. I even have Snorlax for it if he doesn't have Haze. So I'm literally not worried about whatever Toxapex wants to do. So with that being said, let's get this started. I'm going to be leading off with my Tangrowth because if you look at his team, my Tangrowth definitely does have the best matchup. I didn't want to lead with Hydreigon on the off chance that he led off with Scarf Landorus because he led off with that during our second matchup. He could also have Scarf Celebi, like I said. So I felt like Tangrowth covered Landorus, Celebi, Toxapex even if for some reason he wanted to lead with that. Heatran as well, but the downside to that is that depending on the spread, he's either going to get off like 70% amount of damage or he's going to burn me with the Lava Plume, and more or less I'll be able to at least get rid of his balloon for my Mamoswine, Snorlax, and maybe even later with Tangrowth. So I decided to just go straight for the knockoff. There was also the chance that he was most likely just going to go for Stealth Rocks, which is what I was expecting him to do, thinking that I would want to switch out, but that was way too obvious. So knockoffing here was definitely my best play to do, as I'm able to knock off the Black Sludge on the Toxapex. This damn little thing is really annoying. In hindsight, I should have switched directly into Mamoswine. I mean, yeah, I guess, because I thought he would go straight for Scald, thinking I would switch into Mamoswine. That's why I brought in Reuniclus. It covered him going for Scald. If he went for Toxic, that's fine. If he went for T-Spike, it doesn't even matter. I honestly don't even care about Toxic Spikes. Although I do wish I had Quick Feet on my Jolteon now. But I mean, if I had switched directly into my Mamoswine, then I could have 100% gone for Rocks, allowed him to go for the Scald. Even if he had burned me, I don't think that would have mattered too much because I still feel like I do more than enough damage to the Landorus with my Mamoswine as it is. So I'm not too concerned about it, but I definitely feel like I should have brought in Mamoswine here instead of switching directly into Reuniclus, because having rocks in this game would have been so good. You guys have no idea. The upside though of bringing in my Reuniclus is that he's basically forced to switch out here. He can't allow me to set up in front of him or start to wear him down with Psyshocks. So I'm in a pretty good spot to just go straight for the Psyshock after he goes for a layer T-Spikes here, because this is going to allow me to now just get off chip damage on whatever he decides to bring in. So I do a solid 32% to the Manaphy, which has me thinking this is not defensive. That did way too much damage for this to be physically defensive. So I see that he also doesn't have leftovers, so this means he may be a Lumberry, could be a Resto Chesto set, although I don't really expect him to be that. He could be Scarfed or Specs even, you never know. But more or less, he is going to be Wakamberry for my Jolteon. As he goes for the U-turn, I did calc the damage. He is not running an attack investment. He is a timid nature, as I'm able to get off some nice chip damage on the Marowak as well. And this is where me bringing in Reuniclus as opposed to Mamoswine is really nice, because I'm able to get off that chip damage on Manaphy and Marowak. However though, if I brought in Mamoswine, I could have got up Stealth Rocks and I could have got off this residual damage regardless, or maybe even got off more damage. But I digress. It's whatever at this point. So I'm going to switch out here. Obviously don't want to take a Flare Blitz or a Shadow Bone, so I switch right into my Hydreigon, and that does way too much damage. Good lord, that is 50%. I did not think that a Flare Blitz would do 50% to my Hydreigon. So I'm going to try and substitute here, as Sork makes a really good play and a really good prep on his part by bringing Brick Break, because I brought sub Hydreigon game 2 for his Marowak, and now he knows that, so he's going to be able to break my sub here. If I had just gone straight for the Dark Pulse like I had wanted to, I would have been able to get rid of his Marowak, and that would have been so good for me in this game, because that is one huge offensive threat that is gone, and that allows me to play my Hydreigon even more aggressively. But I did make the bad play in going for the substitute, thinking he would switch, which in hindsight, look at his team, he has no switch-ins to Hydreigon. So yeah, subbing was honestly just a really bad play on my part. I would have knocked out Marowak, or I would have got off chip damage or whenever he switched in. Either way though, I am just gonna Dark Pulse here when I should have gone for the substitute here instead of going for the Dark Pulse. But this Dark Pulse is actually really crucial. I'm able to get off a huge amount of damage on this Manaphy and put him in range of where, if I'm not mistaken, I shared for Mamoswine can definitely knock him out. So that's going to be really key potentially later in this battle. Now he also said that he shouldn't have made this switch in, which if he had sacked off Marowak, that actually would have been so much better for me, because like I said, one huge offensive threat is gone and a lot of pressure is taken off of my Hydreigon. Unfortunately, I cannot live an Ice Beam, so I have to switch out here. I do make the aggressive switch into my Jolteon, thinking he would actually go for the U-turn, but he ends up going for the Ice Beam. Luckily, I do have a decent bit of HP EVs, and I'm able to only take 30% from that leftovers after Toxic, before Toxic, sorry. And I'm in a bit of an odd spot here. I can either, as you see, I go for Shadow Ball. I was about to tell you the reasoning behind this, but Shadow Ball was, I feel, 100% the middle ground play, because it covered him bringing in Marowak, him leaving in Manaphy, him switching into Landorus thinking that I would go for Hidden Power Ice, or as you can see here, him bringing in Celebi knowing that he can live any of the two hits, although I could have had Signal Beam and then gone for it this following turn, which I really wish I had Signal Beam, but he most likely knew that I would have HP Ice and then either Shadow Ball or Signal Beam, and I'm only able to do 31%, which is fine, as I make a bit of a dumb play here. Instead of Volt switching, I hard switch, thinking that maybe he would try to switch into his Marowak. I also thought that he could have been Scarf, not seeing that he had lefties. So instead of Volt switching, I just hard switch right into my 10-year-old. That extra little bit of chip damage doesn't really matter. And then he pulls out the Trick Room, and this is why I wish that I had knocked out Marowak, or that he had left it in for me to knock out, because now I potentially have to deal with this thing behind Trick Room, as I'm able to get the knockoff on this Celebi off. And you're gonna see that him not having leftovers is very, very important in this battle. So I'm able to get off a decent bit of chit damage after getting rid of his lefties, as in comes the Marowak. And this is absolutely terrible, because I put enough speed EVs to outspeed non-speed EV'd Marowak, which means if he's not running his speed EVs under Trick Room, he's faster than my Tangrowth, as where my Tangrowth should be faster than him in Trick Room, because I prepped to outspeed Marowak, because I had no idea that he would even think of bringing Trick Room with Marowak. That completely threw me for a loop. So really awesome prepping on Sork's part, because I never would have thought about this. Like, this is actually kind of scary, especially with my Hydreigon being at 43% HP and him doing 50% with Flare Blitz. This is really not good for me. This is actually really, really scary and really, really bad, because I have to pick something to just die. Like, there's nothing I can do. Reuniclus dies, Mamoswine dies, Tangrowth dies, Snorlax dies, Hydreigon dies, Jolteon dies, and in the end, I unfortunately have to sack off Jolteon like I had to sack her off in my TBU battle, just so I could get a free switch out into something to deal with Marowak. And of course, like my Tangrowth, my Snorlax is running enough speed to outspeed adamant non-speed EV'd Marowak, and he is in Trick Room and he is faster than me, so this really, really sucks. Now, I thought about maybe going for Curse here, because I would definitely outspeed him the next turn. The only downside to that is that he could potentially want to switch out into his Landorus just to get the Intimidate off on me, switching into Earthquake. But I guess in that case, I could then go for the Facade at neutral attack instead of -1, and that wouldn't have been too bad either. But I decided just to be aggressive here, knowing that I can live any one hit, knowing that I can take the Brick Break. I'm gonna knock him out with the Earthquake, and now I no longer have to worry about Marowak. However though, I now have to worry about Landorus. Luckily though, I'm toxic. I may be a -1, but I have the Facade, which does 54%, 53.6% to be precise, to this Landorus, which has me thinking he is not a defensive set, especially because he just goes for Substitute. Now, Substitute Landorus is something else that I was really not expecting him to have, so this could potentially also be a huge issue, as he's gonna knock me out with the Earthquake. This is fine. I have Tangrowth, which should be able to deal with this Landorus, because I don't have anything to worry about. But he has the damn Fly, which again, I did not like. Sork is taking me on all kinds of twists and turns in this battle, and I'm enjoying it, but it's also terrifying me, because there's a really good chance Sork can win this battle, as I am now down 5-3 and things are really not at all going good for me. Like, this is really bad. Guys, this is really, really bad. Heatran has not taken any damage. Landorus can still potentially win him this battle. Celebi still has recover more than likely, so he can just recover up to full HP. Manaphy being at 22% is nice, but then again, Toxapex is almost at full, and then there's also the chance that he still has the Haze, which I don't know if he has or not. So I'm pretty sure I sat here thinking about this play for about a minute or so, and Sork and I sat and thought about a couple of our turns for a good like maybe 3 minutes each. Like we didn't have the timer on. We knew this was, I wouldn't say an important battle, but a battle that we really wanted to be good, so we wanted to play good is what I'm saying. But I sat here debating it. I ran the calcs, and judging for how much damage he did to my Tangrowth, there is a good possibility that he is actually Adamant Landorus. And like I said during the team building process, I thought that there was really no reason for him to bring Jolly Landorus because I have so much that can already outspeed him, so why not just bring Adamant to have the extra power? Now, I can easily bring in Mamoswine to go for the Ice Shard to Oko Landorus. The only problem with that is that it's so painfully obvious he can just switch out and potentially sack something off. But if you look at his team, if he switches out anything into an Ice Shard, I can then just knock it out the following turn. Celebi's to a KO'd. Toxapex is wrecked by the Earthquake unless he tries to pivot in between trying to intimidate me. Then I'm just going to get on my rocks against Toxapex, so I can then have rocks and punish him every time he's going to try to switch in and out. If he brings in Heatran, I pop his balloon, then I just click Superpower or I click Earthquake and claim a life or get off chip damage on this Landorus, then potentially knock him out with the Ice Shard. So either way, Mamoswine here is definitely 100% my play. But because for some dumb reason I thought that he could be Adamant, I bring in Hydreigon. And this is really bad. This is a terrible play because he outspeeds me and goes for Fly. Now, I thought about going for the Roost. I was really close to going for the Roost, but I could just not risk him being Adamant because I needed to outspeed him and knock him out. So, worst case scenario happens, he's Jolly, I don't Roost, and he can knock me out next turn. And like I said, Mamoswine was 100% the play. Shouldn't have brought in Hydreigon. Hydreigon still did so much in this battle, especially when I was able, if I was able to get up behind a substitute. But it's okay because even though we are down 2-5, we are backed up into a corner, we still have a chance to win this battle. We still have a chance to win this battle. So I'm going to bring in Mamoswine because I don't want to bring in Reuniclus because I don't know the last move on this Landorus. He's shown Fly, Earthquake, and Substitute. He could have Knockoff, U-Turn, or even Swords Dance, and if he Swords Dance, then he can SD alongside my Reuniclus as I try to Acid Armor. And then from there, he could crit me, and things could just go absolutely downhill. As where now, I bring in Mamoswine. I claim a soul. I don't care what play he's gonna make. Something is dying, and there's a good possibility I can just win with this Mamoswine right now. So I'm just gonna go for the Ice Shard as he decides to leave in his Landorus, which is absolutely amazing. Funny enough, it turns out that his final move was Swords Dance because we talked after the battle, and yeah, if I had brought in Reuniclus and tried to Acid Armor as he SD'd, that could have been bad. So I knock out the Landorus, which is great. 2-4 as in comes a Heatran. He has the air balloon, but ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, because I know that Sork is expecting me to be Adamant Mamoswine from our first 2 battles, I'm gonna click Superpower. I am Life Orbed, Max Attack. This Heatran is going to just drop, which is absolutely huge because now it is 2-3 and Mamoswine is looking pretty crisp right now. Like it can definitely sweep. As he brings in the Toxapex, I make a really odd play here and I switch directly into Reuniclus. To be 100% honest with you guys, I did not even run the damage calc to see how much damage Earthquake would have done to this Toxapex, because I definitely should have gone for the Earthquake. I feel like instead of switching directly into Reuniclus here, as he's gonna go for the Scald. Scald wouldn't have done too much damage to my Mamoswine, so that's another reason why I should have stayed in. as I can just go for the side shock. I can maybe go for the Calm Mind. I don't want to risk him maybe having the Haze, which is why I go straight for the Psychic as opposed to going for the Calm Mind. As in comes the Celebi, and this is where the real fun of this battle begins, to say the least. So I'm in a bit of an odd scenario in this game. In theory, all I have to do is get up to +6 and just beat the Celebi, and I win the battle because I beat Manaphy and then I knock out Toxapex. But as you can see, Psyshock is not doing too much damage, so I have to get up to +6, and depending on damage rolls, I can beat the Celebi 1v1. This is why me knocking off Celebi's leftovers earlier in the battle was so important, because now I have a much better chance of 1v1ing this Celebi once I get up to +6. So I'm able to do over 50% each time to the Celebi, as I believe the max damage that my Psyshocks can do is 60%. So if I can get 2 more or less high-ish damage rolls, then I can knock out the Celebi. The only problem with that is that I need to save at least 2 Psyshocks to still knock out Manaphy and knock out Toxapex, because my last move on my Reuniclus is Acid Armor, which I didn't even need this game because I was able to get rid of Marowak and Landorus. So there's still a chance Sork can win this battle just by having Celebi in here and him constantly going for recover to stall out my Psyshocks. So I'm gonna go for the Psyshock here, and I'm able to do about 58-59%. As he goes for one more recover, I do 61%, which is really good. And now he is in a very tough scenario, because he is exactly at where I need to get a very high or a max damage roll to knock out this Celebi. So I'm gonna go for this Psyshock here, and he lives on 3%, but he misclicked on Baton Pass. Now wait. Even if he had gone for the recover, he would have been at 53% HP, which means unless I had got a absolute low damage roll or very close to absolute low damage roll, then I wouldn't have knocked out Celebi, and he could have lived and recovered again and then stalled out my last couple of Psyshocks. So I really don't think him here baton passing really matters, as he's gonna baton pass into his Toxapex, which I'm at +6. It literally just dies. So this is a scenario that me and everybody else that was watching us have this playoff battle was here for, because this is probably the game deciding Psyshock. I don't have Icicle Crash on my Mamoswine. I have Ice Shard. That's the hardest hitting move I have to hit the Celebi. So I need Jasmine to come through here. I need Jasmine to not drop the ball. Reuniclus has been easily the MVP of the Durham Druddigons in the CCL D League, and she has put the team on her back multiple times. She has not let me down except for once, and ever since then she has never let me down, and she's been on track. And right now, Reuniclus, this is the time I need you to not let me down, because if we win this battle, Reuniclus has a terrible matchup in our match against Kyle. So this is her last moment to shine. This is the last thing she needs to do, is just not get a low damage roll on Psyshock. So Sork goes for the recover. He's at 53. I go for the Psyshock. Thankfully, knock him out. And that is basically the battle. And it turns out that he actually has Heart Swap Manaphy, which I thought was actually really cool. And this is where me getting off that Dark Pulse damage on Manaphy on the switch-in is absolutely crucial, and where me not acid armoring comes into play, because he is in range of where even if he steals my boosts, I will still knock him out with the Side Shock, and that is going to be the 2-0 victory for the Durham Druddigons in round 2 of the CCL D League. We are going to the playoffs as number 1 in our division, number 1 overall, and we are taking on the number 2 seed, the man that we unfortunately 6-0'd in our first encounter due to hacks. But I really feel like we have a good matchup going into our game against Kyle. I definitely have an idea of what cool stuff I want to bring, and I know Kyle's gonna bring some pretty awesome stuff, so I'm really excited, hoping that we have an awesome game, really good game to Sork. I could have probably played this a little bit better, maybe if I was sober, but hey, it's Pokemon, had fun, we won. So yeah guys, hammer that like button, let me know what you thought about the battle. I will probably be uploading my match against Kyle sometime next week, so be on the lookout for that guys, and then that'll be the end of CCL D League. So yeah, thank you all for watching, later everybody.
Cause my brain and heart are both tied in a knot, and this hinders me from crying a lot. This causing me to show no emotion. But when I said I cared, I wasn't joking. But I guess it's too late for me to become broken. For now, I'm living with no more pain, tears, or hoping. I'm just coasting. Yeah, I said I'm coasting. No more pain, tears, and hoping. For real.